from state office holders in New Hampshire. Our state recently set new aggressive levels for PFAS in drinking water. Other states have done that as well. We need a federal solution on this because states don't necessarily have the expertise at their fingertips, the capacity to be able to do this. We need a standard across the country that's going to protect public health and drinking water. And I understand that there's a process, but we want you to share the urgency that people who have been exposed to PFAS contamination have.
You have my commitment. We share the urgency. I know that for the people who are exposed in the communities, that's unsatisfying for me to say that. But I can tell you, based on the career team, the scientists and the regulators that we have working on it, they have an urgency. They're working on it holistically, not just in the drinking water program, but in our Office of Lands and Emergency Management and our TSCA program. It is an agency-wide initiative. It is a core principle of the Administrator Wheeler to push forward on PFAS, and we're doing everything we can as quickly as we can. We understand there's frustration that sometimes the federal bureaucracy is part of it. The Safe Drinking Water Act, for example, was established to make sure that we engage with our stakeholders, engage with our scientists and our advisory boards. But I understand that if we go through that process, the outside world and some of the people who are affected may believe that it's not going fast enough, and I acknowledge that.
We're counting on you to get something done. I was recently at Pease Air Force Base in Portsmouth. The Air Force has financed a treatment system for groundwater there. They have levels that are hundreds of thousands of parts per trillion, far exceeding the 70 parts per trillion prevailing health advisory by the EPA, and far exceeding the new standards that New Hampshire released. They told me it's going to take, if not decades, centuries perhaps, to treat all the groundwater in that area so that it's safe to drink. So we're talking about a problem, when you look across the country, just on military bases, that is quite significant. I'm wondering if we could shift to industrial pollution sites. I don't know if you're aware of how many active industrial polluters there are of facilities that are discharging PFAS into lakes and rivers.
Well, I don't have the data in front of me, but my team actually, we're putting an effluent limitation guidelines plan. We do that every couple of years. That's out. We've got 4 or 5 pages dedicated to this, and we're beginning to take a look at the various forms of dischargers and based on the sectors of the economy in which they operate. And so the agency, as part of our PFAS action plan, we are looking at that.
So experts estimate there are about 500,000 active industrial facilities that are discharging PFAS into lakes and rivers and bodies of water in this country. That's a serious concern, and I'm wondering if you could just confirm that you believe that there should be limits on PFAS discharge from such sites.
Well, so we have a couple of facilities, for example, in West Virginia and North Carolina that are subject to discharge limits. They're the manufacturers. We are taking a look at what other sectors would we have the authority to regulate, and do we have the ability to regulate, and that's part of our effluent limitation guidelines plan. So we're taking a look at it. That plan will be coming out fairly soon, but it's in the action plan. It's one of our things that we took a look at over the next couple of years. Obviously, to regulate all at the time, you have to have the science, you have to have the data, and so we're going to focus in on the higher priority areas.
Fairly soon. Can you narrow that down for us?
The publication of some of these plans, I don't have the details in at my fingertips. I can get back to you on that. But I know I've signed off on the last on the effluent limitation guidelines plan. It's going through the publication process. Quite frankly, where in that process, I just don't have the answer, but I can get it for you.
Well, the way we can really protect public health from the threat PFAS poses is to first stop the contamination, stop this situation from getting worse, ensure that there's treatment of groundwater, that people have access to safe drinking water, and then work at making sure that we get these chemicals off the market. They're called forever chemicals for a reason. They stick around in the environment for a long, long time. And they have been linked to serious chronic health conditions, from cancer to thyroid issues. We've got to make sure we're doing more on this. This is going to be found all across the country when we test for it, and we need our EPA to be on the front lines of this with up-to-date science, working hard with that sense of urgency to protect the public.
Yeah, you've made the argument for why we developed a holistic action plan, and the core component and our primary focus, well, I shouldn't say our primary, that's the wrong word. One of our main focuses is on closing the scientific gap. And so there is a huge amount of work happening in the Office of Research and Development and with our federal partners on how to close the scientific information gap. And we're also working on trying to figure out ways to identify more chemicals in basically environmental media. And so all of that is happening as part of our action plan. And if we were just laser focused on one issue, we would ignore the holistic picture.
Thank you. I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Pappas. The chair now recognizes Representative